Hi, I'm Catherine Gray, founder of She Angel Investors and co founder of the She Angels Foundation. I'm also the podcast host of Invest in Her and an award winning producer, author, and TEDx speaker. Our show, Invest in Her, features phenomenal female founders and funders. As you know, women receive less than 2% of venture capital funding. Our series is about accelerating the funding of women by connecting them to funding resources. Let's meet today's guest. Welcome to this week's edition of Invest in Her. I'm your host, Catherine Gray, founder of She Angel Investors and co-founder of the She Angels Foundation, now general partner at Silicon Valley Women Founders Fund, and also, of course, the executive producer of Show Her the Money, where we've been on a 100-city tour. And today, my guest is one of the people who's an associate producer on that project. I'm so excited to have on Azin Radsan Van Alebeek. And she is the co-founder and general partner at Emmeline Ventures. Welcome to our show, Azin. Hi, Azin. How are you?
Hello, Catherine. Thank you. I'm well. I'm very glad to be here with you today and
Me
look forward
too.
to our conversation.
Absolutely. And it's been so fun getting to know you because, with this film project, Show Her the Money, everyone involved in it, we've gotten the chance to travel together and do so many cool things together that we've all become friends and family. And it's been just, I think, a highlight for all of us is having gotten to get to know each other because everyone involved with the film is so amazing. And we have actually a book coming out soon, right?
Yes.
Of the same name, Show Her the Money, so you can read all about Azin's story and everyone that's in the movie, everyone that helped make the movie, who invested in the movie. And it's like 30 extraordinary stories to, I say, inspire you, lift you up, and give you hope, which we all need right now, right?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. And I would say definitely what you said, inspire you, give you hope, lift you up. And what I also like is we are all coming from different backgrounds and we have different experiences and the paths to success, if you will, that we have all followed are very different. So I'm hoping what the book also does is allows everyone who reads it to identify with at least one person and say, hey, that person's like me too. I can do this.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that because as much fun as we've had doing the movie, obviously it's also a lot of work, but we've had so much fun. We've traveled the world together. I know you and I were in
We were in
London
London. We
together.
celebrated my birthday together, Catherine.
Yes, and also traveled all over this country. Most recently, we were just at UCLA.
Yes.
So it's been a fun journey. We've done a lot of fun projects. I remember back at our first screening in Philly, we made a music video. That was super fun to our song, Show Her the Money, which was created by Amanda McBroom and Michelle Browerman. Amanda is iconic for having been known to write that famous song, The Rose. And then we were fortunate enough to have her and Michelle write the music for our theme song.
Oh, and
So
it's such a great theme song,
it
Catherine.
is,
So
right?
every time I hear it, just the feelings open up and
Yeah.
escalate. So
Yeah, and by the way, people can see our funny music video to that song on YouTube. It's a She Angel Series YouTube channel. So
and I highly suggest we keep touting the film, and I hope everyone knows how to go see the film, but you really need to see that music video as well. It's awesome.
yes, yes. And then about seeing the film, we still are doing our screenings both virtually and live and in person. On our website, people can sign up to screen the film. So that, of course, is showherthemoneymovie.com. This really is a movie and a movement. So we call it a movement, right? And
Exactly.
we're always wanting people to get on board and join our grassroots movement to help change the fact that women only get 2% of venture capital funding, and how can we change that? And one of the ways is women can become investors. And I want to talk about your unique story about becoming an investor because, you raised three kids and then you got back in the game and became a venture capitalist and then ended up launching your own venture fund. And I want to talk about that because that could be somebody else's story and they can see that, hey, the second, third chapter can be extremely exciting and what's the word I'm looking for? Just rewarding, rewarding. And so there's a saying I actually have on my desk, Azine, that reminds me of you.
Oh,
And
wow.
read it.
What
It's
is it?
from Mike Dooley. It says the one thing all famous authors, world-class athletes, business tycoons, singers, actors, and celebrated achievers in any field have in common is that they all began their journey when they were none of these things.
I love that.
Don't you love it? I love it.
Love that.
Like, and you're always saying, and I love this about you on the panel, that you can do whatever you believe you can do. No matter what place you come from or what your previous life was. And so I feel like you can inspire so many moms out there who've raised kids that you can have an exciting, exhilarating, amazing, rewarding next chapter after raising children, right?
I'll do my best to inspire. And I absolutely agree. Love that quote. I'm going to have to put something similar on my desk as well. Um, and because too often we hear about the end story of success, but rarely do we hear the struggles and the path and the hard work and the luck that's almost always involved, right? There's always
Yeah.
pivot points of like, is it going to happen or not? And you talk about that in the movie, just when founders are ready to give up and close down shop, something happens and helps them turn the corner and progress on paths. So, yeah, shall I move into my story a little bit? And only because
Sure.
I
Yes,
want
I would
to,
love that. So, also, I love the story where you had met the young guy who was starting a venture fund, and you realized in that moment that anybody could be anything they want it to be. Can you share that story? Because I love that story.
sure. Yeah, and I think this is the one you're referring to. So I was at Venture Cafe Phoenix. Venture Cafe is a global organization, actually, and they do weekly meetings to stimulate venture ecosystems. Phoenix has a really wonderful cohort of a group of people who come on a regular basis. I was at maybe my first or second one and was just starting to meet people and started chatting with this younger man in his 30s and, if you will, the usual suspect who might be in venture, like a white male, moderately good looking in his 30s and very pleasant and lovely. And he mentioned he had been doing diligence work for a number of the venture firms in town. And I thought, wow, okay, that's impressive because for in my brain, diligence work, like that is something that you get certified for. There is a system set up. And I thought, okay, what training did this man have? So I asked him, I said, so how did you learn how to do that? And it was such a wonderful moment, Catherine, as you pointed out, because it just was a for me. He looked at me and he responded. He said, what do you mean? He goes, I just figured I could.
Yeah.
And it was such a moment of understanding belief in oneself and
Mhm.
how important that is, and just using one's natural, like honestly, like almost everything in the world, if you break it down, not rocket science, obviously, but there is a common sense approach to life. And if you just break it down to the knit into its elements, you're like, I can figure this out. That's one. But two, more importantly, it was such a clear indication of the difference of how genders approach work.
Yeah.
And he didn't question his ability. He didn't think he needed more training. He didn't think he was less than, right? He probably didn't have situations where it reinforced any of those ideas. He just walked forward and thought, I can. And too often, women, and it could be a acculturation of how we're raised, how we're met in the world, so many different things, but we come forward with, I need to know more. I'm not enough. And I want all of us to remove that it's either fear, insecurity, and those weights, those limiting beliefs that we hold, because we can flourish and fly. It's really up to us to start in our own mindset of like, oh yeah, I got that. I can do that. I'm smart enough. I don't need
Yeah.
to, yeah. And then the other story we talk about, and everyone knows this one too, for um, job placements, right? There's 10 criteria listed. Here's what you need to do to have the job. Men might match one or two, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm putting my application in. Women, on average, we look at those 10 little bullet points and we're like, I only have eight, maybe nine. I'm not sure if I'm qualified. You're like, come on, you're more than, right? More than
Right.
qualified. Put it in.
But I love that you had that epiphany, like almost like, oh my gosh, well, if he can do it, so could I. Right, right?
So can I, so can we all.
So can we all. And I love that. That's
Yeah,
where I feel like you're such an inspiration. And so
thank you.
you went on after jumping in and doing your own investing. You and your other partners put your own money into investments, learning due diligence and deal flow and everything, and then launched your own venture fund, which I think is so exciting because more women than ever in history are launching their own funds. And I think it is an inspiration to see a woman start her own fund because then you think, well, if she could do it, so could I. So now that we see more women doing it, more women are feeling empowered about it, don't you think?
Yes, I think so. And I know so, in fact, because I have heard stories from a number of people who have since meeting us, since seeing the film, who let us know, hey, you inspired us. I've now done the same. And so we have empirical research, if you will. We have data that show that people are acting upon the inspiration that we're spreading out there. So
And
definitely.
show her the money has not only inspired people to, um, invest in, I mean, startup funds, but also to invest in funds. And that's another wonderful success story of the film is that by taking it on the road, people started investing in Emmeline and other ones featured in the film. And
Definitely.
that was super exciting because it made us realize, oh my gosh, we're actually accomplishing what we set out to do, right?
It's yes, 100%. I say this all the time to you and to others, going to the film screenings and then being able to sit on panel and to share my story and uh, to share my story and to experiences. And then afterwards to have the people come up and you can feel their energy has shifted, that they've opened up in their hearts and their brains to think, hey, more is possible. And then I'll hear back from them in a day or two or through even like months later about changes they've taken in their life, be it on the investing side, but even little changes the next day they approach just their work differently. I did have one woman who wrote me the day after and said, well, I listened to you and I quit my job. And I thought, oh no, I don't think I told you to quit your job. But, it was more, I think, the idea that she was thinking about her value and what she wanted out of life. So it's been phenomenal to feel that we are the ripple effect of this film. It's so positive. Catherine, if I may, I do want to bring some backstory in
Yes,
so that it's
absolutely.
not fully disingenuous. So, um, because my story I'm is eclectic, and I can say yes, I launched a venture capital fund with two co-founders, and now we're two GPs. The two of us remain as general partners on Emmeline Ventures and that I got here after a long period of being a stay-at-home mom, which is true. What's also true is prior to this period of being a stay-at-home mom, I have a quantitative economics degree from Stanford. I worked in consulting. I went to business school and studied, probably focused more on finance, went back into consulting. So I had a career that on trajectory could lead very easily to where I'm at now, and particularly the types of work I was doing when I was consulting. Then I took that great stop out to do something that was very rewarding, truly like very privileged to be able to raise three kids full time and to really focus on them and the family. I also had the opportunity in that time to do everything except for make the money. So I handled international moves, international taxes. I handled our investing. I handled a lot of stuff and was in many rooms that many people don't get to be in. And those were all learning. And I sought opportunities in that time for volunteer work that would upskill, that would keep me vibrant, learning, improving upon myself. So, for example, I taught art literature in the public school system on a volunteer basis. And it was fun, but also I learned a lot about art history across all different centuries, actually, from all different periods. I taught kindergarten through eighth grade. I also taught the other adult volunteers. So I not only learned, I practiced my public speaking and presentation skills. I, um, organization. So there was just lots of things that I chose to do. I was on strategic advisory committees as well, so that I could think about build projects, was involved in some as a trustee in some legal issues. So there was always a thought of, yes, I'm doing this. Yes, it's wonderful. And yes, I'm a continual learner. How can I put myself in positions to learn? And I was always investing.
And
So
I love what you're saying because it's so true, I think, in everyone's lives, that life is like this puzzle, and every single thing you do throughout life leads to the end game of what you're meant to do. And so
exactly,
I love what you're saying. All those things you did along the way led to what you were meant to be doing today.
100%. They built
Yeah.
up to this. Um, if you remember Slumdog Millionaire, that film.
Yes. Oh my
And
God, that's
for
one of my
me, I
favorite
often
films.
reference back to the idea of the Dev Patel character being able to answer those questions, and then you would cut back to other aspect, his past points in life that those experience would lead him to be able to answer the questions. And so that concept is very similar to what you just articulated as well.
Right, exactly. So you've launched Emmeline Ventures. Let's talk a little bit about that because this may be something of interest to people that are wanting to get into venture investing. You all have a particular thesis that's really powerful and
Thank
interesting
you.
to many people today. Let's talk about what you all focus on in your thesis and why.
Perfect. And I'm going to start with something you've mentioned already, the idea that venture capital is has traditionally been very homogeneous by those who are the GPs, the general partners, by those who are the investors, the limited partners who put the money in, and by the founders who are building the startups, and quite honestly, also by the sectors in which the venture capital funds invest. You could say the sector issue is a function of there are certain types of business strategies that are more amenable to venture capital. I talk about it's the math. Like there are certain math requirements that are needed for the venture capitalist to feel like she can get the returns. So, but what happens is when you get any homogeneous group, you know about what you know. And so that's core to the idea that if you bring women GPs or people of color as GPs who are starting to enter into the system, we're going to be drawn to problems and solutions that we know well, that are important to us. And so if you know that venture is funding our future, if people with disparate views or diverse views or varying views aren't part of that future building, there's no way in the world that the future is going to be built for us. So we have to be in at the ground level floor building the future. So that's core to the idea of we have to get involved
Right.
and we
And
have
people
to
need
let
to vote with their money, I say. So they're putting money into a venture fund. Yes, of course, to make money, and you stipulate that in the film. That's what it's about. But
100%.
also to make impact on what are the future goods and services and how you want as an investor to have a say so in that. And that's very important and very impactful. And talk about, you know, how, a little bit about how to invest in venture
Sure.
and what it is you all are focused on that's so
Yep.
important to our future.
Yes. And so for us as female GPs, general partners, our investment thesis is very much centered on the following. We look to invest in tech-enabled solutions. So that's an indication that it's proper for venture capital, tech-enabled solutions that support her overall health. So when we think about overall health, we're thinking of her physical health, her mental health, her financial health, and her environmental health. We are looking for those solutions that are going to keep her healthy and whole because we all know there's study after study after study done. The data is there to show if she thrives, her family thrives, her community thrives, all ships rise. And it's so elemental, and yet too often overlooked. And we talk about in the movie and on panels about if you take specifically physical and mental health, well, women's bodies haven't even been studied um, in the way that in medical research, except for the last 20 years or so. Like we've been excluded from medical research. And our bodies, women have been treated as little men. Well, it's not true. We react differently to drugs and to treatments and diseases. And that research is just starting to come out.
And that's why what you all are doing is so critical, funding those initiatives.
Exactly. Really trying to, uh, yeah, find solutions that will keep us aging well
Yeah,
and through
which
our entire
obviously you are
period.
doing, my dear.
Thank you. I'm using all my products of the companies we're invested in. I'm like, there we go. One always by my desk.
What's the name of that one?
This is Woman S.
Women S.
Yeah.
Oh, I've
Age
got to look into
gracefully, live
that. Is
longer,
that
Woman
like a
S.
skin cream?
Yeah, it's for all women because it doesn't have any hormones in it, which is really great. And price points are wonderful.
I love that. I'm actually writing that down.
Yeah, this is their all over body cream.
Can you purchase that at the drugstore or where can you get it?
You
Online?
can online D2C, you can go online to Woman S and order directly from their website and also Amazon. And they will be coming out soon in a very large national retailer
Oh,
who I,
that's fantastic. You
yeah,
know, that's and that's when they end up being acquired and being a unicorn and the people in your fund make money and that's how it works. And one other thing I always love that you mention to people is how the average return on the public market is about 10%, but on venture capital it's about 20%. Why wouldn't people be putting a percentage of their portfolio into venture capital where they make an impact and have the opportunity to make quite a profit compared to the public market? And so I think
I
that's
can answer that in a way that brings in a whole other concept. So yes, imperial the data show over the past few decades that the venture asset classes outperform public markets around 2x, right? It's a good deal more. Of course, there's higher risks. So, like in the public markets, and particularly these days, right, the idea of diversification is important. Um, the same holds true in venture. But why more people aren't invested in it, in my point of view, a few things. One is being able to invest in alternative asset classes like venture is limited to those who are accredited investors. So that's a SEC definition and it is a gatekeeper to say who may and may not come into this asset class.
and let me just interject right there that even though that is a criteria, there are so many women out there earning 200 plus that don't even know they're accredited investors and have not been
Well,
shown.
definitely, and that's my next point. So there's that, and then two, it's really it's it's not often talked about. Well, one, women don't talk about money enough, and you know that's one of my um, key missions in the world is to get more people and particularly more women to talk about money and investing. But the venture is definitely something that you're invited into. And if your peers aren't doing it, who's going to invite you? So I had the good luck, good fortune of being invited into in 2008. I was asked by a friend, a white male from Stanford, who was involved with a pooled angel investing group of 50 people. And he asked me, he said, Azin, he goes, I think you'd enjoy this. Come learn about it with me. Because I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So I was lucky to be in a group where someone was doing it and he felt like that was right for me. So again, going back to why Emmeline, why we're doing this, because we want to invite and make possible for more people to invest. Because yes, many people are accredited investors and they'll never hear about this.
And
And
it's one of the reasons I'm so glad that you all are featured in the film because one of the goals with our film was that I wanted people to see themselves in the film. And so I wanted them to see, hey, here's these three diverse women who have started their own fund that you could be investing in. And throughout the movie, you pretty much, I think anybody sitting in the audience sees themselves in the movie in some capacity, either as a fund manager or as an investor or as a founder. And so, but we have such a diverse cast of amazing characters that I think that's why Show Her the Money resonates with so many people. They do see themselves in some capacity in the film.
yes, for sure. And also, by the way, it's just beautiful storytelling,
Yes.
really beautiful storytelling. Um, because not all documentaries have that narrative arc like Show Her the Money does, and following the four founders, and for founders to see themselves also depicted so accurately, the highs, the lows, the rapids in between, right? Like it's a journey for us all. And the same goes true for general partners and for the venture funds.
Right. I think people weren't be feeling that they were seen and heard.
Yeah.
And the film helped them feel seen and heard. What it did for the viewer was allowed them to learn about venture in a captivating storytelling kind of way. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't have an interest. They probably think it's kind of a dry topic. I imagine many people are.
Catherine, you know that when my partner Lakeisha Landrum Pierre came to us with the idea of investing in Show Her the Money, I thought to myself, are you kidding me? Who in the
That's
world would
funny.
want to watch a film about this? How could that's going to be so boring? Well, luckily Lakeisha kept pushing and she had the
Yay,
vision that you
Leticia.
did. Yeah.
Yeah, well, she could see my vision and her media background. She kind of knew, we knew, her and I knew this was how we were going to change the 2%. We
Yeah.
have to educate women about it. And I do think I think the reason that the energy in the room is always palpable whenever we show it. I think people come in with these low expectations that it's going to be really boring. And then they're so entertained and moved, and they laugh and they cry and they feel moved by it and inspired by it that's the joy that we feel at the end of it. It gives people hope, right?
Definitely, definitely. Yes. And I would say perhaps those first screenings, people had low expectations, but I think at this point in time, everyone knows that they're in for an amazing show.
Yeah. Well, I think so too. And we were planning to do a 50 city tour, which because of the interest and momentum turned into a 100 city tour last year. But we're continuing throughout this year. We still have requests every day all over the world to screen our film. The difference is this year we do offer it virtually. If people have a group and they want to, come on our site and book it to show their group virtually, but we all still, of course, still do the in-person. Like I said, we were just at one the other night, which was fabulous. Nothing greater than getting to see people enjoy the film in person and having an opportunity to talk to them afterwards. There's a real
Agreed.
magic in that.
Catherine, for the virtual screenings now, do those come because with all our in-person screenings for the past year, it was mandatory. It was your vision to ensure that there would be a panel discussion afterwards, which was truly genius because it allowed people to watch that documentary, to have that common experience, and then the panel just pushed it deeper into everyone's brains and
Because
hearts,
once
right?
people watch it, they want to know more. They want to ask questions. They want to meet people in the film. So yes, I know your question is, do we still do the panel on the virtual? Yes. So even when companies or organizations do a virtual to their, local, national, or global entity, we do a virtual panel at the end of that so that they can engage in conversation and ask questions because we feel like it's still a movement and
Yes.
or movement
Great. But
as we
because I
say.
really feel that that is a unique piece of it as well, and why
Yes.
this has um, caught such emotion of people. It's that both the narrative, the storytelling of the documentary is incredible, but it is that 30 to 40 minutes afterward in dialogue in real-time conversation that really pushes the concepts home.
Which
And
you say 30 to 40 minutes, and you and I both know sometimes turns into an hour, 2 hours. I think we've had some up to 3 hours. People didn't want to leave. They still kept wanting to engage in conversation about this, which is super exciting. Uh,
yeah.
yeah.
Catherine, I'm going to go back because I'm laughing. There was something just in at LA. You were like giving me the cane and to get me out there because I was in great conversation with a few women. And the question really is how, and you had asked this earlier in the podcast, how does one get started as an investor in venture? Is that not a question?
It
Um,
was. Yeah. So this
and
is a
I
good
would,
time to answer that.
yeah, and I'll say I have, by the way, I'm not accredited. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a financial planner. I'm like, I don't have the qualifications to give anyone financial advice. So please, that's the caveat emptor, right? And yet, based on my experience, here is what I would suggest and how I do it. So, first of all, before you're going to get involved in venture, I suggest that people make sure that the rest of their investing portfolio looks solid, right? Have your 3 to 6 month emergency fund, have some other investments in the public markets, like have your beginner and intermediate level and investments in assets. When you've crossed a threshold where you feel like, okay, I've got the basics taken care of, I have my safety net taken care of, and I meet the requirements. I have either $1 million in assets above my primary home, or I've been earning as an individual over $200,000 a year for the past 2 years, and my future outlook looks similar. Okay, now you can start getting into the venture asset class. And then the next question is how much and how do you think about it? I tell everyone the money that you put into venture should be money that you can walk away from because you might lose it all, particularly if you might be doing angel investing and you're just like some idea comes by you, you're like, yeah, I'm going to put money into it. But venture is risky. You should know that. That's why the rewards are higher. So whatever money you allocate, it is going to be tied up for 7 to 10 years. You can't control when you're going to get it back. You don't even know you can't guarantee that you're going to get all of it back even, right? But investing in funds is a diversification strategy, so that allows you to have some more confidence that you will get your initial principal back as well as some returns. But that's how I've always done it. That's my mindset. And then people ask, well, how much? Well, then you can approach it from different angles. It should be a dollar amount that's meaningful because it is a 5 to 10 year investment. It's a long-term investment. So you
Mhm.
should do a chunk that is appropriate for that longer time. And I also suggest to people do think about a percentage of your overall investable assets. If you look at endowments, I don't know, it's something like 5 to 20% of the total investable assets are put into alternatives.
Mhm.
So think about something similar, maybe do 5% to start with. And
And what I always love about venture is you automatically, when you put it into a fund, it's like a mutual fund, you automatically have 20 or 30 in your portfolio. In that respect, I feel like
the
it's risk
diversification.
averse than going directly into one company.
Exactly. You really would, it's helpful to have that diversification, which is why we suggest the fund, as do you, as does, I believe, Dawn also in the film talks about investing in a fund to start off with. And so, and also important for people to know is, unlike other types of investments, if I'm going to invest in a fund, I give what's called a capital commitment. I make a capital commitment. It is the amount that I'm saying I'm going to put this amount aside. Let's call it $100,000 for easy numbers. That's what I'm going to invest in the fund. I don't have to write a check on day one for $100,000. That's the beauty. That's called, it's a verb that's used in venture. It's called over time when the fund needs the money, because the
Mhm.
fund doesn't want to take all your money. They only want to take your money when they have a good investment to invest in. And
Right.
it takes time to find those investments. So it's ongoing flow. I will do our diligence, we'll find three companies, and then we go to our LPs and we're like, okay, now we'd like 20% of your commitment, please. Send it in, it comes into our bank accounts, and then we basically the next day write checks into the startups that we're investing in. Simple
Right.
way to think about it. So we only take the money when we actually are ready to deploy it. Is that
Great.
helpful? Do you think? What else might the audience members like to know about how to invest in venture?
I just think also that people like to understand why their wealth managers don't always recommend it.
Mm.
And often it's a lot of them, their entity doesn't offer those alternative assets, and often they are not well versed at that either, with a great knowledge of it. So alternative investments might be something that you're kind of making that decision on your own, although some wealth advisors might be in that arena. Not all of them, not a lot of them. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say a few different reasons. An easy one to suggest is the wealth managers who do offer private placements to their clients. There is a good deal of diligence work that the firm will do. So they might, I'm trying to think of who I just heard recently, but they might review 10,000 pitches from different venture funds. There's a lot out there.
Right.
They will cull that down to 20. And those are the 20 that they offer to their clients.
Hmm.
And so there's a good deal of diligence and work that goes in because they need to feel very comfortable that they are offering only the best and only the least risky options to their client base. So, and what happens is if you're an emerging manager, if you're doing something a little different, if you're not exactly like the rest, it becomes more difficult to suggest you or to promote you on the site.
So, and that's another reason we made the film, and I'll close with this, is that we wanted to educate people, A, that asset class even exists, how it works. We do that with the film. You walk out of there understanding it. We wanted people to understand that you didn't have to be a billionaire or a multimillionaire to be in this asset class. And we wanted people to understand that what you're doing is having experts who run these funds, like Azin, um, get the deal flow, vet it for you, because that's probably not your wheelhouse. And that's why you're investing in that venture fund. So, because your wealth managers aren't probably talking to you about it, we made the film so you can learn about it on your own and say, hey, am I in a position to take a small percentage of my portfolio and make an impact, leave a legacy, while also probably getting a better return than the public market, although we can't say that. But that is the averages. It's just history, right? You can look at it.
Right.
And
Exactly.
I always say on the public market, you'll never meet the founder. So another cool thing about venture is you get to meet the founder, you get to work with the general partners. It's like a family and it's a great experience. So, not too many
You're
investments.
creating the future when it's all
Yes.
the creating the future, and it's the innovation economy and the innovation market. It's incredible, and the types of people who are attracted into the space are just
Yes.
wonderful. Yes.
Yes, I always say the most brilliant on the planet, and it's a great circle to be swimming in, and everybody's welcome. So,
100%.
thank you so much for taking the time to share your story and about Emmeline
Thank you.
Ventures. How can people reach you, Azin?
Oh, thank you, Catherine. I think the best way is on our website, emmelineVentures.vc. There is an opportunity, there's a contact, and they can reach out that way. And I would say you can also reach out to me directly on email. I'm hesitant to say that only because my email management these days has been awful.
Or
So,
what about LinkedIn?
oh, LinkedIn. Thank you, Catherine. That is actually the best way. If you LinkedIn me, mention that you in the connection request, mention that you heard me on the podcast, and then I'll know to accept it. And that actually is a wonderful platform for communication. Thank you.
So, for those who are just listening and can't see Azin's name, I'm going to spell it for you. So, it's Azin, Azin, and then you're going to follow that with Radsan, Radsan, and then Van Alebeek. So, Van Alebeek. So, look her up on LinkedIn. Of course, I'm on LinkedIn as well, Catherine Gray. You can look us up. You can also
And
visit.
it's Gray, Gray,
It
correct?
is. Yeah, Gray, Gra, Catherine with a C. And of course, you can visit me on our websites, which is She Angel Investors um, and Silicon Valley Women Founders Fund.vc, as well as, of course, our movie site where you can find both me and Azine, which is showherthemoneymovie.com. So visit us there. We have a whole resources page with podcasts like this one, books like our one coming out called Show Her the Money, same as the movie, um, and workshops. We want to give you the tools you need to jump into this exciting alternative asset class. Azine, thanks for being an inspiration and a friend and a part of this project. Make it a great week,
Truly my
everybody.
pleasure. Thank you, Catherine.
Thanks.
Bye.